Good morning and welcome to this exciting day where we talk about business details all around the world. We'll talk about the very fine details of it. It's Business 360. My name is Blyden Ukem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at the key features in the world of business. We'll x-ray the very fine details, beginning from the economic index. We'll talk about inflation in England, the UK, and inflation in South Africa. We'll also talk about the commodity markets and the foreign exchange market, the impact of inflation on New Zealand's currency. We'll look at Nigeria's story regarding the effects of changes in the prices of fuel, how it gets to affect Nigerians. And we begin with the Bank of England. The Bank of England stood accused today of paying bonuses to its own staff at a time when it was calling for pay restraint from everyone else as part of its own faltering fight against inflation. A total of £25 million was paid out last year in staff bonuses, with some employees getting up to £22,500 in addition to their base salaries. Just under 430 people received performance awards of over £10,000 each. Governor Andrew Bailey, who led the pay restraint calls for fear of a wage prices spiral making inflation more stubborn, is paid just under £500,000 a year. To the G20 summit. Finance chief from an assembly of world's biggest advanced and emerging economies failed to reach a consensus over a framework that would be applied to restructuring the debt of distressed poorer nations. Representatives of the group of 20 nations had very intense discussion on global debt vulnerability during a two-day confab in Gandhinagar, India, according to Indian Finance Minister. She said in a press conference wrapping up the negotiations on Tuesday that the debt issue remains a priority area for the G20 this year, with leaders scheduled to gather at a September summit. Now to African business outlook. The United Arab Emirates has signed a $1.9 billion deal with a state mining company in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, to develop at least 4 mines in the African country's turbulent east, according to the Congolese presidency. State-owned Sakima has mining concessions for tin, tantalum, tungsten, and gold in that part of DRC. The statement gave no other details about the deal, including what type of minerals would be extracted. The agreement was inked by a group over export rights for some artisanally mined still in Putin, when he visits the country next month, would be a declaration of war with Russia, Ramaphosa said in court papers that were released on Tuesday. Putin has been invited to a BRICS summit issued at Pretoria as an ICC member out in courts, where the leading opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, DA, is trying to force the government's hand and ensure the Kremlin leader is in businesses now. Beginning with NMPCL report on why fuel prices increased to 617 naira per litre, and pump prices in the country to market forces. The NMP Kashim Shettima at the State House in Abuja. Mr. Kyari said, with the deregulation of the oil sector, market realities will force the price of petrol up sometimes, and at sometimes force it across the country. Also speaking, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory from a Nigerian point of view amid high costs of transportation. Still in Nigeria, to roll out sanctions against members' prices. Chief Executive Officer of the FCC. The forum was titled Fair Food Prices Increase. Following its 8 years legal battle with Ecobank Nigeria, Honeywell Flour Mills has been awarded 72.2 billion naira in damages by Justice Mohammed Lehman of the Federal High Court, Lagos. Justice Lehman, who presided over the case, granted the request of Honeywell Flour against EcoBank on Tuesday in legal battle that started after the lender refused the manufacturer access to its accounts in 2015. Honeywell Flour's accounts were frozen in November 2015 when EcoBank secured an ex parte order, which was granted on a condition that the financial institution will compensate the former for harm or loss caused by the action. EcoBank alleged Honeywell's group, former owner of Honeywell Flour, owes the company 13.5 billion naira as outstanding debts. The lender has also moved to block Oba Otudeke, Honeywell Group's founder, from becoming the largest shareholder of First Bank of Nigeria Holdings in a bid to recover the alleged debts. The debacle continues between both, but it's time for compensation. It would be a good time to move to global economy and talk about economic data and statistics all around the world, beginning with economic calendar, looking at the expected data releases for today. The economic calendar this morning. According to economic calendar and the standings in it, as at 7 a.m. in the morning, in Great Britain, inflation rate year-on-year for June came out at 7.9%. Previous standing was at 8.7% and consensus 8.2%. The forecast was indicated to be at 8.3%, but inflation dropped, indicating a drop in the prices of commodity and better standard of living. Furthermore, in the day, there are going to be standings and data that will be expected to be out later in the day. Let's look at it. According to Economic Outlook, 1:30 p.m. would be the time where the U.S. building permits preliminary estimates for June will be out. Previous standing was at 1.496 million, and expected data would come out around that time. Talking about the U.S. The U.S. Treasury yield curve is now a year into an inversion. Dating back to the 1950s, a yield curve inversion has preceded every U.S. recession, and for the last year, its most recent appearances sparked widespread belief that a recession was imminent. Is it now safe to disregard this historical indicator amid conversations away from recession? Let's have insights by Jim Laurier.
At the same 80. July 2023 marked the one-year anniversary of the U.S. yield curve beginning its deepest inversion since 1980. Now, dating back to the 1950s, a yield curve inversion has preceded every U.S. recession, and for the last year, the phenomenon has sparked a widespread belief that the recession was imminent. But the narrative has changed recently, as most non-inflation economic data has stayed fairly strong. At the same time, the inflation numbers have collapsed. Now, the more widespread belief is that a soft landing is possible. But the yield curve does not appear to agree. Although off its worst level of negative 108, 2s versus 10s is still massively inverted at negative 93 basis points. Those few remaining analysts who are still calling for a recession point to the fact that average time between the initial inversion and the onset of a recession is between 6 and 24 months. Obviously, we just may take more time than we expect.
That's an outlook regarding the U.S. economy and talks about recession and the yield curve. Now to the UK economy. Inflation rate slows to 15-month low. Annual inflation rate in the UK dropped to 7.9% in June, the lowest level since March 2022, and slightly below expectations of 8.2%, mainly due to a slump in fuel prices. Also, the core rate eased to 6.9% from May's 31-year high of 7.1%. Let's move to the charts indicating United Kingdom's inflation rates. The chart this morning. The charts in United States, in UK rather, indicates July's inflation rate as of 2022 at 10.1%, upward to 11.1% in October 2022, and by January 2023 was at 10.1%, but began to slow down strongly to 8.7% in April 2023 and currently 7.9%. This indicates improvements in the quality of life and the cost of commodities in Africa now. South Africa's annual inflation rate eased further to a 19-month low of 5.4% in June 2023, down from 6.3% in May and below market forecast of 5.6%. The inflation moved back to the central bank's target range of 3% to 6% for the first time since April last year, as food inflation eased to an 11-month low of 11% in May. Prices also softened for household content and services, clothing, transport and restaurants and hotels. On a monthly basis, consumer price inflation remained unchanged at 0.2%. Let's also look at the charts indicating South Africa's inflation rate, the charts this morning. As of July 2022, inflation in South Africa stood at 7.8%, began to slow down to 7.6% in October 2022, and dropping to 6.9% by January 2023, and a little up, then down 6.8% in April 2023, and dropping to 5.4%, indicating a slowdown in the economy in terms of cost of commodities and more value for the South African rand. Let's talk about Cape Verde. The annual inflation rate in Cape Verde eased for the 9th consecutive month to 3.5% in June 2023, down from 3.8% in the previous month and reaching the lowest value since September 2021. This moderation in inflation was mainly caused by the slowdown in prices of tobacco and alcoholic beverages in May, miscellaneous goods and services, and hotels, cafes, and restaurants. Moreover, prices declined for both transportation and education at a negative 0.4%, the same pace as in May. On a monthly basis, consumer prices rose 0.3% in June, after a decline of 0.3% in the prior month. Still on the charts indicating Cape Verde's inflation rates. Inflation rates from the island nation stood at 9% in July 2022, before dropping slightly to 8.2% in October 2022, and the slowdown continued to 7.4% in January 2023, before getting to 4.8% in April 2023, and the slowdown for a period of 9 months has dropped to 3.5%, indicating improved value in the currency of Cape Verde, also reduced prices for commodities in the country. It would be a good time to talk about the commodities market, but that'll be when we return from this break, as oil holds advance on improving outlook. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back. It's time for the commodities market. It's Business 360, and my name is Blyden Ukem. WTI crude futures held above $75 per barrel today, after gaining 2% in the previous session yesterday, underpinned by China's pledge to support economic growth and signs of tightening global oil supplies. Chinese authorities pledged on Tuesday that they would roll out policies to restore and expand consumption in the world's top crude importer. On the supply side, Russia's energy ministry said the country will cut oil exports by 2.1 million tons in the third quarter, in line with planned voluntary export cuts of 500,000 barrels per day in August. In the U.S., industry data showed that U.S. crude oil, gasoline, and distillate inventories all declined last week, while official data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration will be released later today. Now to the energy market, let's see what the standings are this morning for the prices of crude oil, U.S. crude WTI, and Brent crude, the energy market. The market this morning has shown low volatility in the market, but slight positivity for crude oil and Brent crude. $75 per barrel is the price of crude oil. Brent crude, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, has hit $79 per barrel, a slight gain of 0.36 points, a 0.46% appreciation. Gasoline, heating oil are a little here, a little there, but coal has gained 3.25 points this morning. The metal markets. The metals have shown a slight negativity exception for steel. Steel has gained 10 points this morning, a 0.27% appreciation. Current price for steel is 3,688 Chinese yuan per ton. But gold price is slightly downward 0.41 points, $1,978 per ounce is the price of gold. Lithium has dropped 8,000 points this morning, a negative 2.6% decline. Current price for lithium is 299,500 Chinese yuan per ton. Lithium is used to make batteries. Let's talk about agricultural markets. The standings in agricultural market has shown some positivity in terms of volatility. On one hand, there's decline, on the other hand, there are gains. For soybeans, price has gained 18 points, 1.21% appreciation, $1,510 per bushel is the price of soybeans. For wheat, current price is $692 per bushel, gaining 21.6 points, 3.22% appreciation. Lumber is slightly down. Palm oil has dropped 35 points this morning, a negative 0.89% decline. Current price for palm oil is 3,895 Malaysian ringgit per ton. Let's talk about the foreign exchange market. Kiwi dollar strengthens after consumer price index data. The New Zealand dollar was trading around $0.6291 today, following a drop to as low as $0.6272 in the prior session after official data showed inflation in New Zealand remained outside the Reserve Bank of New Zealand's target range of 1% to 3% and reinforced the view that the central bank will keep on alert and stay hawkish on interest rates for some time. Official readings showed that headline inflation in the country fell to 6% in the second quarter of 2023 from 6.7% in the first quarter and an over 3-decade peak of 7.2% in the fourth quarter of 2022. Meanwhile, annual food inflation accelerated to 12.5% in June, returning to the same level seen in April, which was the highest print since September 1987. While talking about the Kiwi, let's also talk about the euro against the US dollar in the market now. The price of the majors against the US dollar, and afterwards we'll look at Naira's perspective in the market. The euro against the US dollar still keeping its stand at 1.12 mark. The struggle continues for the euro, but it's been slow and steady gain for the euro. For the pound against the US dollar, a slight drop in the market, but no reasonable volatility in this market. Previous standing was at 1.30 point mark, currently at 1.29 point mark, a negative 0.64% decline for the pound against the euro. Let's look at Naira standing in the morning market, what the prices are for the US dollar against the Naira. The US dollar has gained 11 points, 11 Naira over the Naira, 799 Naira, equaling $1 US, a 1.4% appreciation for the US dollar against the Naira. At the close of yesterday's market, the euro against the Naira was at 889 Naira 76 cents to 889 Naira 76 kobo to a euro. Upward movement for the euro of 19.4 points, a 2.24% appreciation. For the pound, similar story, the pound gained 23 points over the Naira. Let's move to the black market and see what the standings are in the black market this morning, how the responses are. The dollar to the Naira, current price at the buying rate is 845 Naira, equaling $1, and selling rate 828 Naira, equaling $1. The Naira is struggling day by day against the dollar. The pounds to Naira, current price is 1,112 Naira to £1 at the buying rate and selling rate 1,097 Naira to £1. The euro to the Naira is 911 Naira to a euro and 902 Naira to a euro at the selling rate. Quickly, let's look at the cryptocurrency market, what the standings are in the cryptocurrency market. Bitcoin price has gained 214 points this morning, a 0.72% appreciation after dropping away from the 31,000 mark the past 2 days. Current price for Bitcoin is $29,991 US. Ether, the price of gaining 14.73 points, a 0.78% appreciation. Binance is slightly downward. Cardano is gaining upward slightly 3% appreciation. Solana has gained 2.63% appreciation. Same story with Ripples. Let's talk about the stock markets. Talking about the stock markets, we hear that the Capital Hotel PLC has disclosed that minority shareholders of a company will be paid 5 naira per share to finalize the firm's delisting from the stock market in Nigeria. In a statement released on Tuesday, Capital Hotel said it will delist the 3.16 billion ordinary shares listed on the main board of the Nigerian Exchange Limited. The buyout offer was made to shareholders who disproved the Capital Hotel that Capital Hotel should delist. Capital Hotel stated that the financial advisors and the board therefore consider this price fair and responsible, I quote. Following the conclusion of the delisting process, the company will become an unlisted public liability company, PLC. Quickly, let's look at the African stock market this morning, what the standings in the African stocks are this morning, and afterwards we'll look at the Nigerian stock market this morning and the standings in it. Well, while getting to look at that and the indices in that, let's quickly conclude with the Japanese share stocks. Japanese shares track Wall Street higher. The Nikkei 225 index climbed 0.6% to above 32,600, while the broader Topix index jumped 0.9% to 2,273 today, rising for the second straight session and tracking gains on Wall Street overnight as upbeat corporate earnings result and growing expectations for a soft landing scenario in the US lifted sentiment. Investors also digested data showing sentiment among manufacturing firms in Japan declined for the first time in 6 months in July. On the monetary policy front, the Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda signaled the bank's commitment to ultra-easy policy, saying there's still some distance to sustainably and stably achieve the 2% inflation target. All sectors, particularly in the advance, with notable gains from index heavyweights such as Kawasaki Keizen 4.2%, SoftBank Group 1.9%, Tokyo Electron 1.4%, Toyota Motors 1.8%, and Hitachi 2.1%. Here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for watching. My name is Blyden Ukem.